Day 147, after everything fell apart. You're standing at the edge of a ravine that wasn't there 3 months ago. The earthquake that took out the power grid also decided to redecorate the landscape. And now there's a 20-foot gap between you and the supply depot that might still have canned goods, or batteries, or literally anything useful. This is the new reality. Roads don't connect anymore. Overpasses have become underpasses. And if you want to get from point A to point B, you're going to need to build your own way across. Today, we're talking about bridges and zip lines, the two skills that separate survivors from people who stare longingly at the other side of chasms. Because here's the thing. In a post-apocalyptic world, mobility is survival. That working water pump on the far side of the collapsed highway? Unreachable without a bridge. That abandoned warehouse across the sinkhole? Might as well be on the moon. Learning to build safe crossings isn't just a cool skill. It's the difference between thriving and becoming a cautionary tale. So grab your salvaged rope, your questionable lumber, and your overconfidence. We're building a bridge today. What could possibly go wrong? First, let's talk about what you'll need and where to find it in the wreckage of civilization. Rope and cord are your primary currency. Look for climbing rope in abandoned sporting goods stores, towing cables from truck stops, or even those heavy-duty extension cords from construction sites. You need at least 60 feet of strong rope for a basic bridge, and trust me, you want redundancy. If your main rope is all that's holding you above a pit, you've made poor life choices. Planks and lumber come from everywhere. Fencing, floor joists from collapsed houses, shipping pallets, even old doors work in a pinch. You're looking for pieces at least 3 feet long and sturdy enough to hold your weight. Give each piece the stomp test. If it cracks when you jump on it at ground level, it's definitely going to betray you 20 feet in the air. Bent metal pieces and rebar are your anchor points. I-beams from collapsed buildings, thick rebar from broken concrete, even old chain-link fence posts if they're driven deep enough. You need something that won't pull out when tension gets applied, which is a fancy way of saying you need something stronger than your fear of heights. Pulleys are the treasure of post-apocalyptic engineering. Check garage doors, old elevators, construction equipment, even flagpoles. A good pulley makes zipline construction actually possible. A bad pulley makes for a very short and terrifying ride. Wire, smaller cord, and zip ties are your fasteners. Forget about finding actual hardware store supplies. You're twisting wire around things like our ancestors did. Get good at it. And finally, counterweights. Concrete chunks, ammo cans filled with rocks, old engine blocks. Anything heavy that you can attach to your anchor system to keep tension where it needs to be. Step 1. Choosing your anchor points. This is where amateur bridge builders become statistics. Your anchor points are everything. They're the two solid locations on either side of your gap that will hold the entire structure. Walk both sides of your crossing carefully. You're looking for something that's been there longer than the apocalypse, and will be there long after you're gone. Large trees with root systems that survived the collapse. Concrete pillars that are part of deep foundations. Massive boulders that would take an actual bomb to move. Structural steel that's still embedded in stable ground. Here's the test. Can you hang your full body weight from it and swing around like a deranged monkey without anything shifting? No, keep looking. I once watched someone anchor a bridge to what they thought was a solid fence post. Emphasis on thought. The moment they put their weight on the bridge, the whole post came out of the ground like a loose tooth. They survived the fall, but their dignity did not. Your anchor points should be roughly level with each other. If one side is way higher than the other, you're building a slide, not a bridge, and that's a different tutorial entirely. Mark your anchor points clearly. Tie bright cloth around them, spray paint them, do whatever it takes. Because you're about to wrap a lot of rope around these things, and you need to remember which rope does what. Step 2. Creating your main tension lines. Now we get to the actual bridge building. You need 2 main rope lines, parallel to each other, that will serve as the rails of your bridge. These are your primary support system. Start by tying your rope to the first anchor point. Use a bowl-in knot. It won't slip under load. It's easy to untie later, and it's one of those knots that makes you look like you know what you're doing. Wrap the rope around your anchor point at least 3 times before tying it off. More wraps equals more friction, equals less chance of catastrophic failure. Now comes the fun part, getting the rope across the gap. If your gap is narrow enough, you can throw a lighter line across first, Then use that to pull your heavier rope over. If it's wider, you might need to walk the long way around. Yes, this defeats the purpose of building a bridge. No, I don't make the rules of physics. Once your rope is across, tie it to the second anchor point. But here's the critical part. You need tension. A saggy rope bridge is just an elaborate way to get wet or dead, depending on what's below you. Pull that rope as tight as you can, then tie it off. You want it to make a slight downward curve, not hang like a hammock. This is where those counterweights come in handy. Attach a heavy object to the end of your rope on a pulley system. Let gravity do the work of keeping things tight. Repeat this entire process for your second rope line, parallel to the first, about 3 feet apart. These 2 lines are now your bridge foundation. Look at them, admire them, and then immediately question whether they'll actually hold you, because healthy fear keeps you alive. Step 3. Weaving the walkway. You've got 2 parallel ropes. Congratulations, you've built the world's worst tightrope. Now let's make it walkable. Take your first plank and lay it perpendicular across both rope lines. This is your test plank. If the ropes are too far apart, the plank won't reach. Too close, and you've built a bridge for children or very small adults. Now you're going to lash this plank to both ropes. Take your cord or wire and wrap it around the plank and rope in a diagonal pattern. Over the plank, under the rope, back over the plank, under the rope again. You're creating an X pattern on each side. Pull it tight with each wrap. Your fingers will hurt. This is normal. The lashing technique matters more than you think. A loose lashing means the plank will shift when you step on it. A shifting plank means you're going swimming in whatever toxic sludge is below. Tighten everything until it feels ridiculous, then tighten it more. Here's where things got interesting for me the first time. I lashed my first 3 planks perfectly, felt very accomplished, and then stepped onto the bridge to position the 4th plank. The second plank immediately rotated 90 degrees under my foot, nearly sending me into a very undignified tumble. Turns out, I hadn't lashed it tightly enough, or correctly, or at all, really, in retrospect. Spaced your planks about 6 inches apart, close enough that you're not doing weird high steps to cross, far enough apart that you're not wasting precious lumber. Continue this lashing process for the entire length of your bridge. Yes, it takes forever. No, there's no shortcut. Yes, your hands will hate you. Step 4. Adding side rails and reinforcement. You now have a walkway suspended between 2 points. You do not have a bridge you should trust with your life. Let's fix that. Side rails are optional, in the same way that parachutes are optional for skydivers. Sure, you can go without them, but why would you? Take additional ropes and run them parallel to your main support lines, but higher up, about waist height. These need to be anchored at the same points as your main lines. These side rails give you something to grab when the bridge starts swaying, and it will start swaying because physics is a harsh mistress. Connect your side rails to your walkway using vertical supports. More rope, more lashing, same tedious process. Every 2 or 3 planks run a vertical cord from your side rail down to your walkway. This creates a webbed structure that distributes weight better and gives you hand. Now let's talk about reinforcement and counterweights. Your bridge is going to sag in the middle when weight is applied. That's not a failure, that's just how tension structures work. But too much sag is bad for both functionality and morale. Add a counterweight system at each anchor point. Attach heavy objects to the ends of your main ropes using additional cord. Then hang them off the backside of your anchor points. When the bridge sags under your weight, these counterweights pull back, maintaining tension. I learned about counterweights the hard way. Built my first bridge without them, stepped to the middle, and suddenly found myself in a fabric hammock situation rather than a crossing situation. The bridge held technically, but I was basically lying in a rope net 20 feet above ground, questioning my engineering degree from the University of YouTube. ADD diagonal support lines from your anchor points to the middle of your bridge span. These prevent lateral swaying, which is when your bridge decides to do the wave motion without your consent. Step 5. Load distribution and structural balance. Let's talk science without making it boring. Your bridge works because of tension and load distribution. Every point where weight is applied needs to transfer that force along multiple paths back to your anchor points. Think of your bridge like a spider web. When a bug hits one part of the web, the whole thing vibrates, but the force spreads out through all those connected strands. That's what you want. Single points of failure are bad. Redundant connection points are good. Test your load distribution by applying weight gradually. Don't just run across your new bridge like it's a race. Place a heavy backpack on the first plank. Does anything shift? Does anything creak ominously? Good, you're paying attention. Move the weight to the second plank, the third, the middle. Watch how the structure responds. If one section sags dramatically more than others, you have a weak point. Reinforce it before you become a cautionary tale. Structural balance means your bridge shouldn't twist or tilt to one side. If it does, your main ropes aren't tensioned evenly, or your planks aren't lashed symmetrically. Fix this now, not later. Here's a quick tip that saves lives. Always attach a safety line to yourself when testing a new bridge. Run a rope from your harness to a secure anchor point on the side you're starting from. If the bridge fails, you're dangling instead of falling. Dangling is always better than falling. The first test, your bridge is built. It looks sturdy enough. You've done everything right. Probably. Now comes the moment of truth. Stand at the edge of your bridge. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself that humans have been building bridges for thousands of years, though admittedly those humans usually had engineering training and proper materials. Put your foot on the first plank. Apply weight gradually, the bridge will shift. This is normal. Your brain will scream that you're going to die. This is also normal. When I tested my first bridge, the whole structure groaned like a haunted house. Not a subtle creak, a full theatrical groan that suggested the bridge was personally offended by my existence. I froze for a solid 30 seconds, 1 foot on the bridge, 1 foot on solid ground, looking like the world's most indecisive adventurer. Take another step, the bridge will sway. You knew it would sway. You planned for the sway. You're still not emotionally prepared for the sway. Grab those side rails. Shuffle forward, testing each plank before committing your full weight. Don't look down. Everyone always says don't look down, and everyone always looks down, and everyone always regrets it. Halfway across is the worst part. You're too far to go back easily, not close enough to the other side for comfort. And this is when you notice that one knot that doesn't look quite as tight as you remembered making it. My halfway point moment involved realizing that I'd been so focused on lashing the planks that I'd forgotten to properly tension one of my side rails. So as I shuffled across, one side rail was taut and helpful, while the other had more slack than a teenager's work ethic. The bridge began listing to one side, creating what I can only describe as a funhouse effect. Not fun, keep moving, don't freeze. Freezing makes everything worse. Your muscles tense, the bridge picks up on your micromovements and amplifies them, and suddenly you're in a feedback loop of swaying and panic. 3/4 across, you can see solid ground. It looks beautiful. You want to run, don't run. Running is how you learn about the weight limits of lashing cord very suddenly. Final step, onto solid ground. You made it. The bridge held. You're alive, victorious, and definitely not hyperventilating. Now that you've mastered bridges, let's talk about their exciting cousin, zip lines. Zip lines are for when you need to cross a gap quickly, or when the gap is at an angle, or when you just want to feel like an action hero for 30 seconds. Start by identifying your 2 anchor points, just like with the bridge. But here's the critical difference. One anchor point needs to be significantly higher than the other. Zip lines work on gravity. If both ends are level, you're just hanging from a rope in the middle, which is more embarrassing than useful. You need at least a 10-degree downward angle. More is better, to a point. Too steep, and you're basically free-falling with rope burn. Not steep enough, and you'll roll to a stop halfway across, dangling like a sad piñata. Use your strongest rope for this. Your bridge rope supported you while stationary. Your zipline rope has to handle your full body weight moving at speed, plus the shock load when you break at the end. This is not the time for that frayed cord you found behind a gas station. Anchor your upper point first. Triple wrap it around your anchor, use multiple knots, add a backup rope if you have one. Paranoia is your friend here. String your rope across to your lower anchor point, pulling it as tight as humanly possible. A saggy zipline is a slow zipline, and slow ziplines defeat the entire purpose. You want this rope to sing when you pluck it, like a very dangerous guitar string. Now for the pulley system. If you found an actual pulley, congratulations, you're living the dream. If not, you can create a makeshift one using a carabiner or a bent piece of smooth metal pipe. The key word is smooth. Rough edges and zip lines create friction burns that will make you question your life choices. Attach your pulley to your rope. It should slide freely along the entire length. If it sticks or jerks, you need to smooth something out or find a better pulley. Create a harness attachment. This is what connects you to the pulley. Use multiple connection points. Your life is about to depend on this not coming undone mid-flight. Test the system with weight before testing it with yourself. Tie a heavy backpack to the harness and send it down the line. Watch what happens. Does it make it all the way to the bottom? Does the pulley jam? Does any knot slip? My first zipline test involved a backpack that made it exactly 70% of the way down before rolling to a complete stop. I watched it dangle there, mocking me, as I realized my rope angle wasn't steep enough. I had to walk the long way around, climb out to retrieve the backpack while hanging from the zipline rope like a sloth, and add more tension to increase the angle. Dignity, 0. Lessons learned, many. The zipline test. Your zipline is rigged. Your test weight made it across. Now it's your turn. Attach yourself to the harness system. Double-check every connection, then check them again. Then have someone else check them if anyone else survived the apocalypse with you. Stand at your launch point. You're about to trust your life to salvaged rope, a sketchy pulley, and your questionable engineering skills. This is what peak survival looks like. Grip the pulley handle or rope with both hands. Lift your feet off the ground slightly to test the system. You'll drop an inch or two. This is terrifying but normal. Commit, lift your feet completely, and push off gently. You're now sliding down a rope across a gap at increasing speed. Your brain will produce every fear chemical it knows about simultaneously. The middle section is exhilarating. You're flying. You're an apocalypse survivor who's conquered physics. This is amazing. The end section is where things get real. You need to brake. If you don't brake, you're going to hit the anchor point at full speed, which is bad for both you and the anchor point. Braking technique: squeeze the rope behind you with your legs while leaning back slightly. This creates friction and slows you down. Don't grab the rope in front of you. That's how you discover that rope burns at speed, can remove skin. My first actual zipline ride ended with me completely forgetting to brake because I was too busy screaming in a mixture of terror and joy. I hit the anchor point tree with enough force to knock out my own breath, bounced back slightly, and dangled there wheezing while trying to pretend I'd meant to do that. The tree was fine. My ego was not. You've done it. Your bridge stands. Your zipline functions. You can now cross gaps that would stop most people. This is genuinely impressive, even if your construction methods would make actual engineers weep. Take a moment to appreciate what you've built. In a world where infrastructure is dead, you've created new infrastructure. That's not nothing. Your bridges won't last forever. Weather will wear the ropes, wood will rot, knots will loosen. Plan to inspect and maintain your crossings regularly. Replace worn components before they fail. Learn from each build and make the next one better. Share your knowledge with other survivors. Communities that can build bridges together can rebuild civilization together, or at least reach the good supply caches more efficiently. Building bridges and zip lines in a collapsed world is part engineering, part improvisation, and part wishful thinking. You'll make mistakes. Structures will fail. You'll end up dangling from ropes, questioning your choices. But every bridge you build successfully is a victory. Every crossing you create is a middle finger to the apocalypse itself. The world tried to separate you from what you need to survive, and you literally built a solution out of garbage. So get out there. Find your gaps. Build your bridges. Create your zip lines. And remember, if at first you don't succeed, at least you probably didn't fall far enough to not try again. Stay safe, stay creative, and always, always check your knots. Until next time, because civilization might have fallen, but that doesn't mean we can't rebuild it one sketchy rope bridge at a time.